Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick
This
Marotta.
is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Rob Friedman, better known as Pitching Ninja, and you're watching the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
This is awesome. I love your account. I love your book, and I love talking about baseball. So thanks for coming on the show with me and my buddy Brian, who's right above me here. When you decided to write a book, this is a stretch from where you were, from where you started. What made you say, fuck it, I'm going to do it? Because most books don't sell. Your book has been a smash success. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. You know, I have no idea. No, actually, it's all because I get asked this question over and over again. Is pitching really better today? Or are the hitters worse? Or people are just like trying to just throw hard? So I wanted to go through the history of pitching and understand like how simple it used to be and how complex it is today and all the people around the game that have kind of made pitching where it is today, like virtually unhittable. Hence the name of the book.
Brian, welcome to the show.
I'm very interested to hear, your history of with analytics and how you got into it and all that stuff, and how your history progresses. I'm kind of looking into that too, trying to get a frame of mind as the ideas moved along and how people adopted them and why.
Yeah, so the way I started is basically through coaching. Like I wasn't any great player or anything like that, but I was coaching kids. My kid was playing. Everybody's like, well, you seem to know what you're doing. You you have a lot of details and we'd love to have you coach. My thing was like, I didn't want to teach what I was taught because what I was taught I didn't think was tremendously useful and probably outdated. So I went on a quest to find everything I could and turned over every stone. Happened to start on like this pitching message board back before like Twitter and all that stuff. And started about the same time as guys like Kyle Bodie, Ben Brewster, guys that started pitching labs. And we all used to learn by breaking down models of pitchers and try to figure out what really was happening. And through coaching, I just was like, someday I may not coach. So I wanted to share it all. So I started sharing that all online on social media. And then it just started taking off like I didn't expect it. But through that, I've just constantly been like, one of my things is I used to be a lawyer. Still am a lawyer. I hate to admit it, but I like to ask questions and learn everything I can about something. So I feel like the best I can do is share that stuff because I don't think everybody has that level of time and effort that they want to put into learning the ins and outs of pitching. So I wanted to make sure that what I learned didn't just stop with me.
Yeah, and you grew up, you kind of came of age right before all the, the major Saber stuff was published in the mid 80s and everything, that formative information. Were you into it then?
Not as much probably as I was when I started coaching. Like I've always been into, like I'm kind of a math guy. My dad was a math teacher for 35 years and grew up in a math family. So it was not, math and statistics are something I'm very comfortable with. But it wasn't like I was dead into pitching analytics back in the day. It's just something that had grown on me more and more as I started discovering stuff.
When I started on the same kind of journey, I was reading Bill James. This is in the 80s, a long time ago. And the numbers were one thing, and you take up forever trying to understand how those things work. But just his frameworks of thinking about things, and you ask yourself certain questions and thought exercises. Like when I go to a baseball game and I watch a pitcher, I put their release point inside of a cyclone diamond and I watch where that release point and just little things like, and look, that's the most inaccurate way to do these things ever, but we all have our little tools we develop over time. Did you have your own little special pitching ninja tools that you're like, I do this, I don't know why it works, but this works. I think about these things this way because of this reason.
Yeah, I mean like overlays and stuff, definitely, because like my thing is hitting's hard. And I wanted to try to show everybody how pitchers attacked hitters and how they disguise their pitches to make hitting as hard as it is. So that's one of the things. But I kind of totally agree with you on the way to look at the game. It's like this is why a lot of the outsiders that I feature in my book came to be. It's if you grow up in the sport and you almost never ask why, because all you know is, hey, I'm good and I've gotten good through these ways. But if you automatically are good, you never really break it down to wonder why you're good. So it actually takes people from outside the sport to often break it down in a way that is different minded from the way the participants in the sport do, or coaches, or people that have been around the game. So outsiders have a little bit of an advantage because they're not chained with the just the expectations that everybody else has that are in the game, that this is just the way it's done. The outsiders tend to ask, why is it done that way, and can we do it better?
I saw a Reds jersey in the background. Were you involved with Bodie and them going to the Reds?
I was involved. I mean, I knew of the situation. I wasn't involved specifically in him going. I knew when he went. That one was, I was invited to a Reds game last year by the Reds, and they gave me a jersey, which was pretty awesome. Like, that was so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big thing when he got in there. That was.
He's one of those guys. So to me, Kyle is in the new baseball way of thinking about it, as a computer programmer going in there and saying, I know how computers work. They're logical. The way bodies work should be logical too. If I can break down how pitchers should move, how pitches should move, now how hitters should attack that, and do it step by step logically with an engineering approach, maybe I can help solve some of these big problems in the game. And I think he is has had a huge impact on the game.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I would say he's basically like the Bill James of his era. I mean,
Absolutely.
he's the most influential well, I guess analytic now. They don't say sabermetrician anymore. He's the analytics, yeah.
Yeah, he's even more like, he's done a ton with modern pitch design, the way pitchers move. So it's even more than just like stats around the game. It's actually functionally creating people that are unhittable athletes, and not a cookie cutter approach, like taking what a pitcher does well and using that to build on, instead of saying, oh, I only teach guys to move this one way.
Right. Yeah, he's a really cool guy. Like, I like how he talks a lot about he reads everything. I think he said the one time, I'm a psychopath. He said, I'm going to read this whole thing word for word, some study. I was like, that's what you got to do. Like, I'm not big in the sabermetric game or anything, but I say that to people online all the time. Like, it's not just enough to go to like Fangraphs and Baseball Reference and read how the formulas work. It is, you have to do that. But at the same time, you got to read books about this stuff and see what the theory of mind for people like him is, like you, everyone has their own different approaches that you can learn from.
Absolutely. He's a very smart, analytical guy, and doesn't just take that's the way it's been as an answer. He wants to know why. And to do that, you have to read everything you can around the subject and break it down, or, have a ton of hands-on experience, or both, which he does. So, yeah, I would say that is a great way to solve those type of problems.
Who was the main developer of the sweeper? Like, was there anyone that mainly?
So there is, but it comes from basically, Corey Kluber is kind of patient zero with respect to the sweeper. So he was throwing this wicked breaking ball. He called it a breaking ball because it wasn't quite a slider, wasn't a curveball. And it moved crazy. It was nasty. But nobody really knew why why it moved so sharply. So that was dissected and broken down. Bauer was one of the guys, while he played on the then Indians, was intrigued by that and looked for other pitches that moved that way. Because, again, back in the day, people threw sweepers. Like Bob Gibson threw a sweeper. Dave Stieb threw what I would consider a sweeper. The problem is we didn't know why it moved the way it did. We just were like, oh, that's a nasty pitch, and he's just lucky, or he's just gripping it this way, and it happens to go the right way. Once we discovered why it worked how it did, through like breaking down things like seam-shifted wake, which is another guy I feature in my book, Barton Smith, who helped discover this force on a baseball that went unnoticed for 150 years. Once you can discover it and you know why it happens, now you can start repeating it with other people and saying, if you hold a ball this way and release it in this manner, the ball is going to move, this way, because it doesn't matter. The person who's holding the baseball doesn't matter. all that matters, all that physics and aerospace engineering knows basically is that this is a baseball traveling through the air. And if it's in this location, if it's in this seam orientation, it's going to move a certain way. So once we were able to break it down, then it was pretty easy to replicate. But it took, it took a while. It took people that didn't just say, oh yeah, he's got this grip, let me just copy that grip. If you copied his grip, it wouldn't necessarily help you because everybody releases a ball differently.
Right, right.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. There's pitchers that have just amazing movement. We'll just say naturally. My buddy Mike threw left-handed, 6'6", straight over the top, and it was hard to warm up with him because the ball would just move up, and you couldn't play him in the infield because the ball just moved so crazy. But from the outfield, man, he could throw everybody out. And so I think about guys like Darren Dreifert, just aim for the middle of the plate, and it'll end up somewhere on a corner. No one knows what corner it's going to be. Have we figured anything about how to harness that and take those guys and make them less erratic and keep them healthier maybe?
A little bit, yeah. So the healthier part, maybe not as much, but
Okay.
but the way to harness it, yes, because we can look at so normally pitchers, when you throw, you think about it, you're trying to repeat your mechanics the best you can, but your misses are going to congregate in a certain area. So you may find that I'm trying to throw it down the middle, 80% of the time, it ends up to the left side of me. So you can make then an adjustment of saying, if I just try to aim a little bit over, now the bulk of my mistakes are going to be where I want it to be. And yeah, sometimes I'm going to miss down the middle. Everybody's going to miss down the middle, but most of the time, it's going to be a well executed pitch. So knowing where your misses are generally and then adjusting based on that, you can do. And because of the technology we have now, things like Rapsodo and TrackMan, as well as Edgertronic cameras and other stuff that we can tell where, the where a whole bullpen effort is going and why the pitch is moving that way. If you do that, you can then correct for those mistakes and try to harness them. The injury stuff's totally different because that's something that I think even once you can lessen injuries, pitchers will still push themselves to the point of getting injured because they're athletes and they're competitive and they're looking at, can I throw the hardest? Can I get the most batters out? Can I do?
Right.
And by doing that, you're redlining your body. No matter how we fix those injuries, you're still going to keep pushing it to the brink.
Yeah, I wonder if pacing is going to become a thing in terms of like load management kind of things. You think about someone who's an Olympian athlete, swimmer, track runner. They build up to a peak and then they are on the edge of breaking. That peak really is like they aren't going to stay healthy long. Something is going to break down, and then they shut down for a while to rebuild. And maybe that's Formula One cars. If anything goes wrong, it basically comes off the track. It's still a super fast car, even if it's broken, it can go around, but it's no longer competitive. And so maybe there's some element of that, or maybe we get better at not just the velocity and movement side, but there's a number of accounts on X that they talk about like shoulder shrug or reverse W or all these different things that create problems in the physical therapy world.
Yeah, the issue is a lot of those things that we think create problems in practice don't do it to a large like you can't statistically determine that it does. And there are pitchers like Max Scherzer coming up, which everybody's like, oh, he's got an inverted W. We got to watch out for him. He's not going to be a starter. He'll probably be a reliever. And he's a Hall of Fame first ballot guy who, has been a horse. So the guys, you can't just tell from looking at it. Just like you can't tell who's going to tear their ACL from the way they run. Sometimes it could be one pitch that you're a little bit off and it tears something. Other times it's accumulation of pitches. Sometimes it's just the way you're built. Some people have thicker UCLs, others don't. Muscles also help protect the UCL, so it depends how that's built up. There's so many factors beyond mechanics that you can't control for. So that's one of the big problems of it is we don't know, but it should involve rest and recovery. We probably know that, but there's also a point where it's also about building up, because if you don't build up your arm and then all of a sudden you start to try to throw hard and every other part of you is built up, you might hurt yourself. Just like if I decided to deadlift 700 pounds without ever lifting 300 pounds, my arms might come off. So you have to be able to build up to a certain weight, just like you're building up to a certain velo. And that's all. It's almost like you have to be in tune with your body to be able to do that. I like the stuff that like Yamamoto's doing, which is kind of old school, not even old school. It's beyond that. but it's really body control type things and mobility related stuff. And he doesn't even lift and knowing his body more. So it's just it's a very hard problem to solve.
Is someone trying to make him lift? That blew my mind. Yamamoto doesn't lift.
Doesn't. I don't think that I would want to make him lift because
Hmm.
throws plenty hard. He throws the ball where he wants to, and he's one of the great pitchers to watch because of just he treats pitching like it's an art.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't expect you to say that at all. I thought everyone, even over there, was big into lifting.
Yep. Nope.
He does exercise. He does work out.
Oh, yeah.
He
Oh
does.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of plyometric, isometric type things, balance related stuff, breath control. So, he when you watch him, if you watch him long toss, for example, he takes. I mean, I was out in Japan watching him long toss, and that's almost like a ceremony in and of itself. Each pitch, each throw that he does can be up to like 30 seconds between throws because he wants to feel everything moving exactly right. And he doesn't waste effort. He doesn't waste a throw. Every throw matters with him. And, maybe that's a way of attacking the problem, but I don't think everybody's got the attention to detail that he has, the mobility that he has, and the patience. So you have to work with what you got.
I love those
Some of the
Japanese
stuff
players.
that causes, yeah, they're awesome. Some of the stuff that causes me problems is I get the examining the motion of the body, when to accelerate the arm, how to land, all these things. That part, I understand that. But we've also gotten gun shy in terms of risk. A pitcher cannot go through the lineup 3 times, 4 times. That's kind of true. But like if you look at someone, and we'll just pick Clayton Kershaw. Yes, he can, right? He can make it through because he still maintains a quality level that's like, hey, he's going to be fine. And so we take someone like Skenes who can't stay in a game long enough, reliably enough to pick up wins that are available, and we're putting that on the team. But some of this is just the analytic approach, and I don't know what your thoughts are on that. But we want to see these guys gunsling. We want to see them be the alpha, and then it's taken away, and another guy comes in. But there's something lost in the story of the game.
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of Skenes not being able to stay in the game. I think they're protecting him from himself because that dude threw 130 pitches at LSU and threw 101 on his 130th pitch. So it's not like he can't do it. It's more like the team doesn't want to put that effort forth, especially in games where, if you're not competitive late in the year like last year, why would you try to say, you know what, we're going to run up his innings even though we're not going to win? I think they wanted to be careful with him. This year it may be a different story because I think that team's really dangerous. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets pushed a little further this year, and now he's ready for it because his body's built up. I mean, that dude is a horse. He does. So the other thing I like what Skenes does, we turn into a velo game, but we're turning back into now a more pitching game where he throws if you throw 6 or 7 different pitches, it takes the place of velo because the reason why velo works so well is because as a hitter, it gives you less time to make a decision. So you don't want to even throw a fastball most of the time because the hitter is having to make a decision quickly if it's a fastball or not, and they often choose wrong. But if you also throw 6 different pitches and you can tunnel them, that makes a hitter have to wait to make a decision too. So that seems to be the latest trend is not, velo is up, but also adding pitches is important too because it puts a lot more pressure on hitters.
Yeah, that's funny. I was just reading. No, I can't get my mouse on the blog to bring it up. But I was reading a blog about Schwellenbacher, Sam Miller's pebble hunting blog, and in the article he lists 4 things that pitchers need to do, and it instantly clicked in my head that this is almost exactly like what I read in Craig Wright's Diamond of Praise from 1985. And it's just funny how like people think, oh, this stuff is all brand new. This is, how the vitriol you get, dude. I'm sure you get the people that insult you and stuff really bad. And it's like, this stuff has actually been around a long time, guys. Like this is old stuff kind of.
Yeah, so this is kind of how we even started this conversation. A lot of this has been around for a while, but it was stuff that we didn't know why it was around. Like we know that multiple pitches matter. Now we have a better idea of why and how they can degrade over time. If you see the same pitch over and over, a hitter is going to get better and better at it. But if they see multiple different looks, you have an advantage as a pitcher. But we can now look at that both analytically as well as with visualization type tools. So we know now why that works. And when you know it, then you can apply it as opposed to saying, we've always done it this way, so we're going to keep doing it that way.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how those old heads like Nair and James and Wright, like it seems like they almost inherently knew they were correct. They were just waiting for the technology to come about so that they could prove it.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. I mean, I think Einstein thought he was correct. He's doing it with like a pencil and paper and figuring this stuff out. And now, how many years later we're able to determine so many of the things that he said were correct. Like if you're smart, you can figure it out. The problem is not everybody is that smart. And to now have the tools to back it up is important because it makes more people, like it lowers the bar so that more people can understand it and then run with it. And the more people you have doing it, the more inventions you're going to have.
Yeah. You
How
said
do we take a
you were
different
on the.
perspective? Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead, Brian.
I was
Okay, how do we
you said
take
you were-
I told him to go ahead and then I went. How do we
I'm-
deconstruct and back up and look for the edges? It's one thing to find this new territory and everybody's in there, weighted balls, all this stuff is happening. But to stay ahead, you've got to continually reinvent or bring back something else. The Dodgers are approaching pitching from a completely different way. Everybody's talking about he's a one, he's a two. They don't do that. 40 pitchers. Some of these innings are throwaway innings. I need Rob out there and Pete in the bullpen, and we don't care what the outcome is. We just need them to cover these. Let's say there's 1,400 innings in a game. They're doing is something totally different in terms of value and how they get miles out of arms that are commonly available waiver wire arms.
Yeah, well, look what they did with Yamamoto last year, just making him into a Swiss Army knife, bringing him in wherever you want, whenever they wanted to. They have the luxury of doing that because they also have almost unlimited money in a huge market, but they also are doing it a smart way. So, I think it's easy to say that they just throw money at the problem. They're more than that. Like they treat their players right. If I think I heard Joe Kelly say there was one point where they said, we don't, if you're injured, even if you're not at your very best, take some time off, get better. We don't want 90% of you and then, have 80% of you in the playoffs. I'd rather have 0% of you and then 100% of you in the playoffs. Things like that, where you're just resting pitchers during the year, where normally they'd throw through an injury. Now you're saying, hey, don't do that. Just get 100%. That's a huge way of coaching, as well as just, they have a great playing personality on that team too. We underlook because we can't analytically judge this stuff, what having a playing personality, a team atmosphere, it at work. If you're working with someone who's a jerk, you might want to leave early. You might not want to do your best job. If your manager's a jerk, you might want to leave your job or do something. I don't know why we think that playing on a baseball team's different. And creating a team that is a real team that has each other's back and understands the weaknesses and strengths of everybody is important and is underrated. And it's underrated because we can't measure it.
Yeah.
The one challenge I think for the Dodgers is there's two: roster manipulation. Some of that stuff is like we've detected a minor tear or whatever it is, and so we're going to sit you down. But also, there's careers that are being, let's say, shortened, by some of their approach to doing things. And so I'm not being. I like the Dodgers. I follow them all the time, so I know quite a lot about this. But I don't know if we'll ever see a good Tony Gonsolin again. I don't know what Dustin May has left. And so is this approach good for the players union in general in terms of guys having careers that go beyond the minimum of, 3 seasons?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say with that. It's going to depend on, like, there's so many other factors that go into that, and some things are just not controllable. Like especially injury stuff, we think we know the answers and we don't. So they're trying the best they can, and I don't think I would blame that stuff necessarily on the Dodgers. A lot of it's a pitcher is competitive in a big market and going to throw through things that they may not even admit to. And then some guys break down just because they break down. Like that's always happened. That's always happened in the past too. The problem is today we're able to have surgeries to fix it, where before it was like, oh yeah, he developed a dead arm and retired. Sandy Koufax retired how young? He might have pitched till he was 37 today because he could have been repaired. But then it was like, there's exploratory surgery. Nah, I'll just retire. What the heck? And then guys you never heard from again that got hurt that might have pitched for a long, long time today. So injuries have always happened. It's very it's a lot easier to see them now because the guys often go on the DL for the IL for a year or two with TJ or some other surgery and then come back.
There's also less of the your arm doesn't hurt, you're bullshitting. Like that has gone. You can actually do a test to see. I was reading about Kenny Rogers. Anybody who's never read about Kenny Rogers' impossible career, I mean, he should not have been a major leaguer. He shouldn't have survived but he did. But one of the things he was known for was you could ask him if his arm hurt, he would never say yes. He would always say, "Nope, I'm fine."
I mean, players are brought up for that. Like, you're brought up with a mentality that you're indestructible, that you could run through a wall, never tell your coach you're not available because availability is the best ability that you could have. And that does you a disservice if you're playing through injuries and now you're not available because you break down when the team really needs you. So the idea of being honest through that is going to be an acquired skill, but it's a skill that a manager or coach should have to be able to determine really, hey, be honest with me instead of like giving me that same answer. I love it. Like, don't get me wrong. I loved watching Yamamoto pitch on one day's rest in the World Series. But what was he going to say? Like, if you ask almost any pitcher, hey, can you go today? It's the World Series. You're going. Like, you're throwing. But the throw at that level was crazy.
Yeah, that was a heck of a performance when he went 9 there too. I was actually gonna bring that up to you. Like, how much of the data that you're getting is data that is kind of just noise? Like, how hard is it to parse out noise from what's actually usable data?
Yeah, it's real. It's really hard to parse out noise because especially early to see any season that you're getting small sample sizes, but you have to knowing why something's the case, having a theory behind it versus looking at just the numbers is important because sometimes numbers can lie. You can find stats on almost everything and then say, well, this guy's good at this. But if you know why this might happen, why this person's an outlier, it can make a lot more sense. So I think understanding the full picture and the logic behind it is just as important as having the numbers.
Right. Yeah, I thought because when Yamamoto went 9, the people that had their narratives they wanted to push, like, oh, you can still go 9, and then some of the guys on the more analytics side were like, look, we're more open-minded, and I was just like, it's really not. It's really meaningless data. Like, it's an exceptional moment. Like, you're not going to be able to replicate that. It doesn't mean anything for either side. It just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, and the game is so different now. And listen to Max Scherzer talk. Scherzer said when he came up, he can get by throwing 91, 92 mile an hour heaters in the first inning because hitters are feeling you out. They're trying to see a lot of pitches, and you can hold some stuff back for later in the game. And it was just like a ramp up type thing. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, hitters are trying to do damage from the beginning, and they know that they may only see one fastball, and they're jumping on it the second they see it. So you don't have the get me over fastballs as much now.
Right,
you have to compete from pitch one, which puts a lot more pressure on the pitchers. You can't do a Nolan Ryan throwing 90 in the first inning, then throwing 100 in the ninth, because you're not going to be around for the 100 in the ninth because you're going to be knocked out in the first or second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pitchers in the old days, like Hooks Wills, nobody's heard of this guy, but he's just one of those guys when you read the newspaper accounts of the time, he's a left-hander, junk baller, but he made hitters uncomfortable. There was something in his motion, the deception that a lot of pitchers just have. We're like, they're sneaky fast, right? Are we getting better at seeing that and understanding what that thing is?
We are getting somewhat better at it, but not perfect because we don't know how much hiding the ball matters and what actually hiding the ball even looks like, because it may be, a shorter hitter that stands at this spot in the box can't pick it up. But if you're standing at a different spot in the box, you can pick it up. Don't know. That stuff we're not necessarily better at, but understanding why, like an invisible fastball, like balls that just seem to rise, we do understand that. Like when Sid Fernandez back in the day had an unhittable fastball and was only throwing like upper 80s, 90. Now we know why that is. So that's a cool discovery. So some of these things we figured out, and it's no longer magic. So now you can replicate it. You can say, hey, this guy's fastball characteristics are this. I see this guy in college that kind of throws that way, or we can teach him to throw that way. So let's draft him and put him in our rotation. If you know it, and you can measure it, now you can replicate it and with other people, as opposed to saying, yeah, this lefty, we couldn't hit him because he was just funky. Like, we need to quantify funky so we can measure it and find more funky.
I
Yeah.
like funk.
Yeah, it's
Well, are we
it's
going to
interesting.
find? Are we going to continue to find dudes who are knuckleballers and improve their ability, or the guys who are, Laredo or even lower submarine? Are we going to see more or less of that? Because you have to change something up. And if like whenever they show like the softball pitcher, striking out all the major league guys, one is it's because the release point is different.
Yep.
That's a big thing.
100%. And I think we will find that. Like, you're seeing guys with over exaggerated up top one, like Trey Savage, and you're seeing guys like Tyler Rogers who are, submariners. There are guys that are somewhat low that are trying to adjust their arm slot lower to be more like a Tyler Rogers, which is very hard to pick up for exactly the reason you said. So I think understanding why it is that those guys are tough to hit allows, and now that we can measure everything about that pitcher's windup, we can now find other guys or suggest that guys on your staff change a little bit. We can lower the arm slot on some folks and maybe get more east to west movement. There's so many things we can tinker with now that we know what we're looking for. So yeah, I do think you're going to see more. I don't know that you're going to see more knuckleballers because, again, we can measure stuff, but the one thing you can't measure is any way to make a knuckleball move consistently, because every little thing matters in the wind, everything. And to try to get that, it's a coach's nightmare not being able to know where a pitch is going to go, and if the guy's going to walk 8 and you're going to have an early hook, or if he's going to be unhittable in any given day. So I'd love to see more knuckleballers. Don't get me wrong. I don't know that you're going to see a ton more, but you will see some more weird arm slots.
Which means you got more guys like Doug Mirabelli, like, get your ass on an airplane, get back to Boston, we need you, because he's specialized in that kind of thing. I think we all like the oddities in the game, the players who just don't make any sense.
Well, did you see?
Yeah.
Did you see Amaya for the Astros the other day throwing a slider that moves the wrong way? So he's releasing the ball, and because of his release, he is releasing it in a way that it has a lot of gyro spin, but causes it to go arm side by like 13 inches, 16 inches on a couple occasions. That now that we know why it happens, we can actually teach other pitchers to do it. But that is weird. When the hitter's used to seeing a slider spin and knowing that it's either going to go straight or slightly glove side, and all of a sudden it's breaking arm side, it breaks everything that the hitter knows. So yeah, these things, these outliers are hugely important.
How similar is that to a screwball?
It's movement-wise similar, release-wise not similar at all. So a screwball is a pronated pitch, so you're turning it this way like a circle change. And this is a true slider in that he's throwing it like a slider, but it's just funky as it releases, just due to his finger position.
Proprietary
so it's really
information.
The opposite.
Proprietary information. You're not allowed to reveal how or why.
I mean, I could, but I'd have to kill you.
No.
Yeah, no, but it really has to do with the orientation of the seams on the baseball and the tilt of the baseball. It's tilted more like a fastball would be, as opposed to the way a slider typically is. So the tilt of the baseball is more arm side than it is glove side. And once the seams are going through the air with seam shifted wake, it catches a seam. And the airflow will make it go arm side. So it's not doing it because of the spin, it's doing it because of the way the ball's positioned through the air. So screwball is because of the spin, because of Magnus force on the baseball. This is more of a seam shifted wake airflow issue.
The one thing that you can't control is the nature of the baseball, and that's Major League Baseball's hands, and I don't even know how much they can control it. We all have our theories, but that's high seams, low seams. Is it sticky enough? Is it hard? Is it soft? All these things. Are pitchers looking at this, and they know they have that innate feel. They can grab a ball and be like, "This is brilliant with that." But what work is being done there?
On the baseball itself, I mean, Major League Baseball wants it standardized, but when you have humans that are involved in the stitching process, you can buy anything. You buy any piece of clothing, any piece of whatever, and sometimes the stitching is going to look different. Actually, all the time, through everything, stitching is impossible to get exactly the same. It's just
Right.
physically not a thing. So there's always going to be little differences. Now, sometimes they do, they have made intentional changes with the baseball, and tackiness is one of the ones that they've tried in the minor leagues. And that's, at some point, maybe we can find a good answer to it because, it's instead of throwing a cue ball. But, pitchers know it. It's why they used to use scuffed baseballs. When you have a scuffed baseball, you can make it move nasty. Now that we know how the way the seams move through the air affect the baseball, that's how we were able to invent the sweeper, as well as wicked two-seamers and change-ups that do different things. It's all because we now know this force that we never understood with respect to the baseball until 5 years ago. So that's why you're seeing all those sweepers and stuff, is because it's a newly discovered force and now we can replicate. Same thing with this reverse slider. It's once you understand how the ball's positioned, you're like, oh, okay, I understand why it moves that way. It's weird. It tricks your brain. So understanding little things about the baseball, something pitchers always done. Greg Maddux told me he used a scuff to make the ball. His nastiest two-seamer was because of a scuff. And a ball that got hit on the ground, and then he used it. So you can do that stuff, or you can have the seams, which are present on every baseball, to make it move differently just by changing the way it sits in your hand.
It's fascinating stuff, man. You said you were on the forums and stuff. It seemed to me, I was on them too. It seemed to me like when I talked about proprietary information, like things really changed like around the mid 20-teens, where it was like there was like the wild west of statistics on the internet, and then all of a sudden it kind of all went away, and it was hard to get information.
Yeah, I think that's true. Now we have a lot of information. Now
there's
information. Yeah, there's information all over the place now. But there was a point where, the other thing is MLB was very proprietary over their stuff until they weren't. Like they had it was a fork in the road, and it was either we can start sharing stuff with our audience or we cannot. And they used to be saying, well, we want to keep everything to ourselves. Now they share everything. And I think it's made the sport way more popular, as well as helped a lot of players and fans understand the game. It was they used to not let clips be on social media. Like you couldn't do it. And now they are okay with it because they know that people aren't going on X to watch a baseball game. They're going to watch a nasty pitch that they saw while watching a baseball game, and to see it again and talk about it. And that's part of the experience that we have as fans, not, oh yeah, I'm going to save some money on my TV package by just watching games on Instagram. Like nobody's doing that.
Right.
Your overlays when you show the exploding pitch when it does 5 different things, because it's 5 different pitches, as it comes out of the tunnel, it's eye candy. We love it, and thanks for making that. And when you were doing the pitching motion, when you would try to figure out was right-handed or left-handed pitcher, all that stuff is wonderful. Everybody should be following the Pitching Ninja on X or YouTube, and as well as getting the book, which is linked right down here below. Make sure you guys get Unhittable. It's fantastic. I read it. I love it. I love baseball, so I love everything about it. But I just want to make sure we plug everything that you're doing. It's fantastic. What's your favorite thing that's out there on the fringes of pitchdom? What do you see coming?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. It's so many different things. Like that's a hard question to answer because I love everything about pitching. I get excited when a new player comes up that is throwing wicked stuff. Like again, that Amai reverse wrong way slider was really cool to watch. So I love seeing if other people are going to be influenced by it. Watching someone like Nolan McLean pitch, who makes the ball move crazy directions, east to west, a crazy amount, is just a lot of fun for me. And that's where the eye candy comes in. Like those guys are made for what I do. I wake up every day watching a game, hoping to see something I've never seen before. And I think all of us, like, that's the beauty of the sport. It's rooting for your team, but also saying, watching Joe Adell rob 3 home runs, like stuff you've never seen in your whole life, and you're seeing it, and we could all share it together. That's what I think the biggest beauty of the sport is, why I like it. So trying to uncover the next big thing is fun. Is Jacob Mizorowski going to be the next big thing? Who knows? Are we going to find a guy throwing 108 someday? Maybe. But I hope to be around to keep watching that, and that's what kind of drives me every day. Esophagus is
when
usually due, but that was bad. That was,
You
I don't,
hope so.
yeah, exactly. We all do not want to go through that. That sounded miserable.
no, yeah, and I don't want any player to get hurt, right? And I know these guys are going to push because that's what they do. Fighters do the same thing. That's all of that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts in general on that aspect of it?
On the medical, like, I mean,
The
the
medical
steroid era,
intervention versus performance enhancing. When are we crossing that line?
yeah, it's almost like you know it when you see it. Like fixing something that's wrong is one thing. So if something breaks, you should be allowed to fix it. Just like in real life, you're able to do that. If there's a drug that's illegal and you're taking it, that probably is a line that you're crossing. If it's something that's on the fence, like ADD medication, sometimes you may not have it and you need it to, and but it still helps you play.
Right.
It's really hard to draw the line. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Steroids seems to be a pretty bright line, but creatine is a natural thing that you can take and and helps you
Right.
stronger. But I think they're very different. So it's really goes down to where the sport draws its lines. I mean, I think steroids is a bright line, but I don't know. Like there are other non-bright lines that you see. It's just up to the regulatory bodies and what we're willing to accept as fans and competitive and the sport as far as competition.
I don't know that and I don't want to get too far from pitching, but I don't know that we know how much PEDs, steroids actually help too. And we call it the steroid era, but there was 5 teams worth of expansion from 93 to 98 because we added a full more, we added an extra roster slot in 94. So we have these 5 things. We have stadiums. I mean, you look at the foul ground at Veterans Stadium or in fill in the blank, all these stadiums and all those disappear. The game changed dramatically. And you mentioned this in your book, working out was no longer going to bind you up. It was going to make you better. You could test your blood in a safe and legal way and eat better and optimize and video. Look at Tony Gwynn and how he changed the game. All of that happened and came to life in the 90s. And I'm supposed to believe that steroids were the only reason why offense exploded. I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care steroids or not. Barry Bonds is the best hitter I've ever seen because he never got a pitch to hit ever and would take his walks. And when he got that one pitch, would drive it into the ocean. That dude, like, it was fun to watch. It was crazy like that. But can you imagine someone like Aaron Judge on steroids like that? I don't think that would be, I don't think anybody would ever pitch to him because they'd be afraid for their life. If he had a ball up the middle, you might see a pitcher's head come off. Like that would not be fun. So I don't know. Like that's a good question, especially since, Bonds was a great player regardless, and he would have put up crazy home run. Like, do you think if he played today that he still, I mean, what would he do? Like he'd probably still be able to hit a ball pretty well, I would assume. And he's not on anything.
Yeah. He was built for it.
He's an incredible, talented guy.
Yeah. Brian.
So I'm interested when World Baseball Classic was going on and Skenes came in for that last game, and he's only going to get 4 innings in. Well, why not the last 4 innings? Like, is there like a mentality there where guys want to start so bad that they would rather do the first 6 innings of the game then go the final 3 every 2 days?
Yeah, some of it's a mental thing. Like that is the difference between some players. Some players would rather pitch one time every few days, and they want to be the guy. They have a routine. Skenes has a very detailed routine. He has a very starter-ish routine that takes him a long time to do. You see him with, this the water stuff on his back to get his shoulders moving right. You see him with connection ball, plyo balls, football throwing. So he has a workout pattern that he does and a routine. So I would imagine to have him not do that would throw him off. There are other guys that mentally need the adrenaline of coming in a big situation, or they're better at it, or they flame out quicker, that are relievers. It's less like it used to be. Relievers were failed starters,
Right.
and that isn't the case anymore. That's another big difference in the sport. Is that you used to like want to get the starter out of the game that gets to the bullpen, and now you get to the bullpen and you're dead.
Yeah.
Like the bullpen is going to throw lefties with funky arm angles and righties throwing 105 and all that stuff, and you're nasty sliders, and you're like, hey, give me the starter back because this is not cool. And it used to be that you got Tom Seaver out of a game or Nolan Ryan out of a game, and now you're like, yes, sir. Now we're golden. The game has changed a ton.
Yeah. Yeah. What do
Yeah.
you think anything could be done to entice the starters to want to throw the last couple, 2 or 3 innings of a game? If you showed them you're going to be much more valuable to our team in the same way you would tell them, hey, we're pulling you before the 3rd time through the order because the data says the OPS you're giving up is going to rise 200 points, dude. So you're getting pulled.
Yeah, I think it depends on the player. I mean, the Dodgers did it some in the playoffs last year, right? They put in some of their starters in relief roles out of necessity because they didn't have their bullpen was decimated or not being able to throw very well. So yeah, you can do that. Although some guys are just better suited to start than others. But you have had guys like, Garrett Crochet was a reliever.
Yeah.
Mason Miller was a starter. So you have guys that are moving all over the place, and it's just a matter of finding what works best for them.
Yeah, I think we'll see at some point someone who's not a closer and someone who's not a starter make the Hall of Fame. A guy that I would suggest as possible is Darren O'Day, because you couldn't be a better pitcher than that guy. Yes, he only has 600 innings, but look at those 600 innings. It's incredible.
It would be cool to see because it should have just go to the marquee roles, right? Like you could be the best at doing what you were doing, and you should be valued for it. It shouldn't just go to closers or just go to starters. It should go to guys that have made an impact on the game when they were in, set up guys that were just filthy. So I don't disagree that we should start looking at guys like that. It's just we've become such a numbers-oriented thing that you need like saves was the golden thing for closers, and wins used to be the golden thing for pitchers. Strikeouts, innings pitched. What about guys that have pitched 20-something years and just been the best at what they did, but they weren't in a marquee role? Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Brian?
You're almost going to have to, I think. If
Yeah,
you're not going to put anybody in.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool. Well, you'll still get, I mean, we say that we have guys that will make, like right now, like Scherzer, Verlander, obviously.
Greinke,
Yeah, Greinke's a lock. You have a lot of guys that are kind of locks.
But is Garrett
Shaw,
Cole a lock?
obviously.
Is deGrom
He's getting
a lock?
way up there to being
Sale?
one. Like he's clearly, he's been viewed as a number 1 top pitcher for a long time.
Right.
I would say he's getting up there. He still has got to come back and he's got to be effective for the next few years and be good. Is deGrom like deGrom's the best pitcher I've seen pitch for pitch, period, in baseball, and that's count. I mean, maybe Pedro, but deGrom's way up there. And his issue is injuries, and is that going to keep him from the Hall of Fame? Right? I think every pitcher would say that guy is who they aspire to be.
We also, for whatever reason, don't have the same kind of future Hall of Famer-ness for Kimbrel and Jansen, and they're still pitching today. And Jansen's, he's not the best in the league, but there's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah, like isn't he like he's right in the Lee Smith area for at least saves. And yeah, he's been that way for a long time. Yeah, I mean, someone like Aroldis Chapman has changed the game as a reliever. Like he throwing absolute flames for as long as he has really changed the game. Everybody, when we started looking at mechanics, he was one of the guys that we just constantly broke down. Like, how does this guy throw as hard as he does? So there are a lot of guys like that have changed the game in different ways. And how do they get recognized?
Yeah. Pete's heard me go off about this a little bit. And every time I say this to people, like, they don't know me, they think I'm criticizing analytics and stuff. But I always say the game is still 9 innings long. Like, just the nature of the beast, where if you're getting pulled halfway through the game and you're not playing the second half of the game, it's like, man, I have a hard time wanting to put a guy like that in the Hall of Fame.
All that's fair. I think just making it into a pure statistical thing is not what the Hall of Fame is about. Like I thought there was a character aspect of it. Are we only going to kick out guys that characters that we don't like and not like characters that we do? Like Dale Murphy, one of the great guys in baseball. Does he get, because his stats didn't match? Should he get extra credit for being a good person in the community? I would think so, because why do we only ding people for it? Yeah, I think there's a lot of things we can do. If we wanted to have a Hall of Statistics, we could do that. Our Hall of Analytics, that's fine by me. But if we're having a Hall of Fame, all-star voting should matter. If fans said you were the best at your position for 15 years, yeah, they may be biased, but they still thought you were the best at your position, even if the stats didn't back it up. Should you be in the Hall of Fame? Is that something that people should want to go to the Hall of Fame to visit and see? A player that they voted into the All-Star game that many times, because it's a museum at some point too, and it's about the fans. It's not just about the sports writers who vote on it or the players that get elected. It's all about the fans. So shouldn't that matter?
Right. Yeah.
When I look at games and I try to decide where, I like to look at value, Rob, and try to measure it so we can get more accurate in how we stack these guys. And one of the things I've realized is that if a starter has a game score of 60 or better, they're probably the most valuable player of that game. If they're a little less than that, and then 4 relievers come in and pitch 4 innings and are lights out, they are probably, as a group, the most valuable, because the innings, most of the value is traded at the back end of the game. We don't see it this way yet, but that is how value moves around. Not the seasonal level, because that gets noisy, but like moment to moment, MVP moments, Cy Young moments, man, the bullpens, they gobble up a lot of value.
Yeah, absolutely. And we keep devaluing wins, which is fair, because the way wins are defined, it doesn't necessarily make that much sense. But instead of saying, well, wins don't matter, clearly winning a game matters. And clearly a pitcher is trying to win the game. We need to make the stats make sense instead of being wed to, hey, a win is if you go 5 innings and you leave the game, your team's win. Like, we can have other ways of valuing it and then make these things, call it something other than a win. But to make it valuable, instead of just writing something off, like we can change the definition, because the definitions are just something that somebody wrote down back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, for me, this was a treat, Rob. I'll get out of the way and let you, Brian, wrap up. But thank you very much.
Oh, my
I love
pleasure.
baseball.
This is great.
I love
awesome,
your
dude.
account.
Great questions. I appreciate it.
Brian, what do you got to say before we wrap it up?
The only thing I was gonna say is I've compared like the starting pitcher position to like the fullback compared to what Jim Brown was in the 60s compared to what Lorenzo Neal is in the 2000s. And like, I'm not saying Lorenzo Neal isn't valuable, but he ain't Jim Brown. And that's nobody's fault. Like, I'm not trying to shit on Lorenzo Neal or Sam Cash or fullbacks or anything. But I look at the pitcher the same way. Like, it's just the nature of the beast. Like, the game changed. I'm against deGrom being in the Hall of Fame because of that, just because, you're not getting the ball in the big moments. You're not Jim Brown. You're Lorenzo Neal, dude. No one wants you on the field in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, I think everybody would want Jacob deGrom on the field in any game, though, right? Like, yeah. So like it's hard, because you're right. The game has absolutely changed, and we do need to recognize it instead of saying players today aren't as good as the players back. Like, no, they're more talented today because they have access to everything, to better training, to more accurate information than they did back in the day. Would the players back in the day have been better today? Probably, yeah, they would have been. But we have to understand the game, there's shifts in it. And it doesn't, we can value today's game without crapping on the old timers, and we can value, and they can understand that today's players are good without crapping on and saying back in my day. So we should ratchet it down and just understand it a little better, like you were just saying.
Yeah.
About maybe 15, maybe 20 years ago, Tour de France was like, we're going to do one stage with no technology. People lost their fucking minds. They couldn't handle it. Can you imagine if you had to have a lights out dugout? No technology at all, Yeah, it would change how we. So yeah, you're right. Like you played in the area you played in. How about cancer drugs? Hey, access to that. It's like,
back in my day, we used to die at 35, and we liked it. Like that's not a thing people say.
A lot of factors. All right, listen. Anything in closing before we wrap it up? Otherwise, thank you, Rob, again one more time.
Oh, my pleasure, and I hope everybody goes out there. If you get the book, leave a review, and I hope you like it because I put a lot of time in it.
It was really good. I really enjoyed it. All right, I'll say goodbye to everybody. Bye-bye, everybody.